And joining us now for a deeper dive into the Haley-DeSantis debate is Mene Ukueberuwa, member of the Wall Street Journal editorial board. Mene, great to have you back on. Appreciate it. So one thing that really stood out about the debate, at least to me, was all that mudslinging between the candidates. What was your impression, and how do you think that came across to the viewers? Was it a good debate strategy?
Well, it was really disappointing showing for any of the many voters who tuned in, hoping to finally see DeSantis and Haley square off one-on-one, hopefully make some attacks against Donald Trump, who they're both vying to be the alternative to, and also some substantive disagreements with each other. But really, what we mostly saw was them slinging mud, as you said, at each other. You had DeSantis calling into question Haley's record on taxes with some unfair attacks. Haley returning the critique with some of DeSantis's approach to offshore drilling in the beginning of his governorship, but very little that would indicate what either candidate would do, either as the Republican nominee or eventually as president of the United States. So
Yeah,
very uninformative.
yeah, and although it seemed like there wasn't really much substance there, I mean, was there anything that really stood out to you in way of issues that either one of the candidates seemed to deliver a clear and strong message to voters?
Well, the two candidates do have very clear distinctions on a couple of important issues. One of them is the war in Ukraine. Haley is very much in favor of supporting that effort and thinks it's important to the national defense. And so she mentioned that the U.S. ought to double down on that support, whereas DeSantis took her to task for that, saying that we've already given too much and arguing that the cause is not particularly important to American defense. Another one is entitlements. Haley has said that as president, she would be willing to raise the retirement age for people who are currently very young, which is a controversial opinion, whereas DeSantis says that the life expectancy in the country is going down. We can't stand to raise the retirement age higher than it actually is. Of course, that would put the United States in a very difficult fiscal situation. So those are a couple of the distinctions that voters could look for between the two candidates.
Yeah, and both the candidates challenged Donald Trump's record last night and repeatedly said that he should be on the debate stage. Do you think they're right, or do you think, does it even matter for Trump at this point since he's so far ahead of the polls?
Well, I definitely do think that forcing Trump to answer some of these critiques of his record as president or his actions in the wake of his presidency, particularly on the election fraud claims, would potentially weaken his position with a lot of voters who don't pay close attention. But as a pure strategy for him, it makes sense to stay above the fray because he has such a strong base of support, and that doesn't seem to be collapsing.
And Mene, I want to talk now about former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, as you know, who dropped out of the race last night. How does that impact things now, if at all?
Well, it seems like it could provide a big boost to Nikki Haley, who is running still distant but close-ish second to Donald Trump in New Hampshire. Chris Christie had a pretty big base of support in New Hampshire as well, and most of those voters probably are not inclined to vote for Donald Trump and will go to Haley's camp now that Christie is out. And so the question now is whether she can continue to close that gap and potentially overcome Donald Trump in New Hampshire. Christie dropping out just made that a lot more likely.
Well, Mene, always appreciate your insights. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Tracy.